You will return, or you will be forced to sign the confession. That was a terrible German accent. That didn't sound German at all. I don't even know what that sounded like. How does Germans talk? Hey everybody, it's Paul from Fat Guy Productions, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And yes, indeed, we are taking a look at another Tom Daniel design. If you remember, not too long ago, I just did the school bus, which was a Tom Daniel design. I grew up emulating this man. I wanted to design models just like him when I was a kid. Clearly that didn't work out, but, you know, I loved the stuff that he did. They were my favorite model kits, and they still are today. And so today we're going to be tackling one of his more iconic vehicles, the Red Baron. Let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to be picking up our project in a weird sort of spot, pulling the body out of the warm liquid goo phase. You see, this car, this Red Baron from Hot Wheels, came to me, and it had already been restored previously by somebody else. So it was, you know, had a couple screws and parts, pieces and stuff, and so really I didn't have anything to take apart or anything like that. So I just went ahead and saved us a little time and dropped it into the warm liquid goo, and here we are pulling it out, which is really actually the start of this project. So you didn't really miss anything. Now, the Red Baron is indeed another of Tom Daniel, one of his designs, and it's absolutely iconic. Everybody knows the vehicle, and it should be a fun little restoration. So the paint that was on here is coming off super, super easy. Not sure what the other guy did. Now kudos to the other guy. He actually didn't do a terrible job, but over time it started to wear down, and the helmet looked terrible. The paint was chipped. You know, there were issues that needed to be corrected. So we're going to just restore it as if I'd just gotten it, except I don't have to go through all the hassle of drilling it apart. Okay, so most of the paint's off. We can go ahead and run this to the sink, wash it off, scrub it down with the brush, and we can come right back. Alright, here we are. We're back from the sink. Our Red Baron is raring to go. He's all clean. The paint's all off of him. He's looking pretty spectacular, if you ask me. There's no real bad parts here. Now, truth in advertising, I didn't notice that the right rear fender is bent in, and I actually ended up painting this thing and having to repaint it again, because after I tried to put it back together, I found that the tire would move because that fender was so pushed in. But it was really hard to notice with it apart like this. What are you going to do? Okay, anyhow, it's all clean and dry. We can hit it with the 4.0 steel wool sandpaper. 4.0 steel wool. Okay, don't really need any sandpaper on this. Whoever had done it before had done a pretty good job of prepping the body, so not a lot of work for me, and their paint came off really easily. I just want to get it nice and shiny before we go to paint. Alright, so the body's washed and dried and all shined up, and I've decided instead of a plain old red Spectraflame, I'm going to use my Createx Candy 2.0 Blood Red. And I'm trying to do something that I did by accident in playing around with this paint, and now I'm going to try and do it on purpose. And I'm going to try and replicate a satin metallic red finish. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up the Createx with a little bit of their thinner and some of their balancing clear, and get it all nice and stirred up and ready to load into the airbrush. And then we'll see how I apply this to try and get the finish I'm looking for. Alright, I'm going to start by misting down my airbrush booth, get it all nice and damp so there's no flying woolly boogers. Make sure the airbrush is blown out, and I'll go ahead and load the paint cup, and we can get ready to paint. Now, I wanted to add as little balancing clear to this as possible, and the reason for that is I don't want to desaturate the paint. I want to get to the color I want as quickly as possible in as few and as fine a coats as possible. So I'm laying it on very gingerly here, but you can see how quickly it is coloring. And that's exactly what I want, because I want to get to color really, really fast while the paint is still got a sort of a soft, sandy satin texture to it. Okay, so there aren't tack coats and medium coats and wet coats here. It's all essentially just a series of tack coats until I get to the color that I want. And by applying it very softly like that, you see I get this really satin finish. You've seen the big rage in the colors on college football helmets these days. That's kind of what we're looking at. One of those kind of a satin metal finishes. I don't know how durable it's going to be, especially because I'm going to not want to put a lot of clear on here. But I am going to have to clear it a little bit. I'll just try the same application technique and go really, really soft, and hopefully it won't kill this this effect, and yet put a protective layer over it. Okay, so here you have it. You can see I've got a nice red, and it's a really soft, flat, I wouldn't say flat, but definitely a satin, metallic kind of looking red. And this is exactly what I was hoping to get. You saw I showed you how much red I had left mixed up, because I kind of mixed like I'm used to mixing and didn't need half of that. So anyhow, but I think it looks really cool. Now if it's sturdy and stable and I can clear it to protect it, we'll just have to see how it goes. Okay, so with the body painted and set aside to dry, we can turn our attention to the interior. Now, whoever had restored it last didn't like the black interior, and so they brush painted this with some I'm sure like Tester's gloss white or something like that, and it looks like hell. This was the one bad spot of whoever had restored it. This was where they really dropped the ball. So I'm going to just spray it down with a bunch of super clean and let it soak for a while, and it's going to take that white paint right off of there for me. And I'm going to revert back to the original black finish of the interior. So all we got to do is just get that white off of there. Okay, so after soaking in the super clean for a little while, you can see most of the paint is gone, and the rest will come off very, very easily with this toothbrush. So we'll just go ahead and get it out of here, and we'll gotta scrub it down with the brush a little bit. Now, I've raved about super clean before. I'm gonna rave about it again. It's non-caustic. It smells fairly decent. You see I'm holding the part with the paper towel. Otherwise I'd be using gloves, and the only reason for that is I don't like the way it makes my hands feel. It's just some weird quirk of mine. I don't know, my hands feel weird after I've been handling stuff in super clean. So whenever I'm using super clean, I like to try and keep my hands protected. But you see that all that white paint's just coming right off. It's perfect. And if I didn't mention it here, or if you hadn't seen a video where I've talked about it, super clean also makes very short work of model kit chrome. So if you're trying to de-chrome something, super clean is absolutely the way to do it. Okay, so the body is dry and looks really, really good. And the interior has been turned back to black and is nice and dry. We're going to make sure that it fits in there nice, which it seems to do. We just got to kind of have to figure out how to seat it in there. But yeah, it goes in pretty good. So we're good there. Body, check. Interior, check. Everything's good. Let's move on. Okay, so now we can turn our attention to all the shiny bits. We have the helmet and the motor and the base. And so for this, we're going to need our flits and our rotary tool. I don't know why I couldn't see them. Maybe the ink was off of them or whatever, but the swastika decals, not swastika, the Iron Cross decals on the helmet were actually still there, and I didn't see them until I started cleaning everything up. So I ended up having to pick those off, but the helmet polished up really nice, so not a problem. Base, not too bad, but we're going to figure out a problem here in a little bit. So we'll see what we got to do there here for a second. Okay, so little flits. Little flits will go a long way. Put a little on there. I'll smear it around with the polishing wheel on the rotary tool. And once I've smeared it around, then I can go ahead and, well, rotor it, I guess. Rotor it? Rotary it? Rotisserie. Rotisserie chicken. Maybe I'm hungry. Okay, anyhow, so I'm rotisserieing the base. And it'll shine up really nice. This can look great. Remember, I've harped on this before. Make sure you come at this from several different angles. Change the position of the brush in your hand. Change the direction that you're polishing. And make sure you're getting all the nook and crannies. And hold on to things really, really tight, because the last thing you need is a red Baron chassis stuck in your eyeball. So make sure you're holding on to it far better than I was.
Almost took my eyeball out.
All of the polishing is very, very important. But when you have a car like this, there is no feature more prominent than the helmet. So make sure that when you're polishing this, you don't cut any corners here, because it'll stand out. So this is a place where you really got to take your time and do it right, and get this thing gleaming. Okay, so after the flits and the rotary tool, a little work with the microfiber towel, and look how beautiful my helmet is. It looks fantastic. I'm rubbing my helmet down very vigorously. Oh my. So, but yeah, it's looking great, right? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so here's where I'm having my problems. This is a model with a straight axle that goes right up into the wheels. The wheels don't just pop off. They're not caps or anything like that. So I'm faced with a decision here. Do I try and save these? Maybe try and put a little silver finish on the wheels and clean them up and make them look as good as possible. What do I do here? Well, the answer was provided to me by just how loose and sloppy the wheels were. In my stash of equipment, I actually had some straight axles that have hubs on each end of them. And so I thought,
so bad.
I'm going to have to take these off of here and replace them with these straight axles so I can put brand new wheels on it. Now, I have always wondered if there was any way to kind of spread the crimp apart and get the wheel out. Now, here I'm going to start on the back, and I've got a little flat blade screwdriver. And I have it in the crimp, and I'm just kind of rocking it back and forth and repositioning it, and look at that. It came apart. Now, I probably could have put the new axle in and crimped it back down, but the front's not going to be so cooperative. And so what's going to end up happening is I'm going to end up cutting all this away and taking my rotary tool, putting a little groove where the crimp is, and then I'll put the new axle in and I'll lock it down with super glue and baking soda. So I did try it. I wondered if there was enough play there, and actually on the front I got a little bit close, but I ended up snapping a piece of this off. In the end, it just isn't worth it. Just go ahead and cut the groove, put a new piece in, and call it a day. Okay, so the paint's on, things are polished, everything's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and get this sucker back together. You know, just it's a really simple car. I've got the axles pretty solidly in there, and then the body is going to help make sure that they stay in place as well. So we'll just go ahead and we'll put the base into the body, and then the interior goes inside its little compartment, and the helmet post actually is one of the main pieces that holds the car together, and it feeds right through the center of the interior and out the bottom where we'll screw it together. And then the other piece is a post from the engine. So, okay, we've pretty much got everything lined up here, and now we can go ahead and pop this interior in. And that, it just doesn't feel like it fits right, but it really does. I think it's that when it's out of the car, the steering wheel tends to spring forward a little bit. And like I said, the post from the helmet goes right through the interior, right through the body, and right into the base, where we can then screw this together. For screwing it together, I'll use my screws from Brightvision and a little Allen wrench to screw them in. And then this car is almost going to be done, and all it's going to need is a little bit of detail paint, and we're all set. Because of swapping the axles out, I didn't really do much with in the way of straightening out the axles at all, because the axles are brand new and straight. All I really had to do was use my tool as a backer so I could pop the wheels onto the hubs, and we were in business. For the iron cross on the sides of the helmet, I just ordered a little set of decals. Really simple, just 2 quick little decals, super easy. Trim as close to the printing as possible. Soak it, let it release, and slide it onto the helmet, position it, and then lock it down with a little Solvaset, and you're good to go. The one thing to tell you here is make sure you're checking your symmetry of the iron crosses. So after you get the first one on, stick the second one on, and then compare its location back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you're happy with it and they're symmetrical. Did you know that in post-World War II Germany, there are laws that you cannot print Nazi imagery? And so, like, if you buy a model kit in Germany of, say, a Stuka, they can't print swastikas. And so the decals, they take the arms of the swastika and break them apart into 2 pieces. And you actually have to lay the 2 decals together to make the swastika for your model. Because the company that makes the decals cannot print a swastika. So I get it, but I also don't. So we won't go there. Anyhow, just a fun fact. It's all nice and dry. It's back together. We're going to bust out some Tamiya XF1 flat black, and we're going to put a little dab at the end of each exhaust pipe. And we're also going to fill in around the iron cross in the front grille with flat black to make sure that that pops out nicely. We're then going to come back later with, what color is that? Give me a second. Let me try and find it here on my rack. X10 gunmetal, and we're going to paint the machine guns on either side of the driver's compartment in the gunmetal finish. So just a little detail painting as we near the finish line. Okay, so I think we're just about done with this little guy. It was a nice, fun, easy build. It allowed us to try something different with the paint job, and it also allowed us to try something different with the axles. And I hope you like the outcome as much as I do. All right, there you have it, the Red Baron. This car had come to me previously disassembled, as I mentioned in the video. Whoever did it, they didn't do a terrible job. It was fine. I didn't like the brush painted interior because it was, you know, they didn't know the little tricks that I teach about wetting your paint down, so it was a little paintbrushy looking, but I stripped all that off, polished the helmet, put it all back neat, straightened out that back fender, and put it all back together, and I think it looks pretty darn good if you ask me, and I really love the satiny look of this finish that I did. I think it really works on this particular car. All in all, super, super happy with it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, you know what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to give it a big thumbs up, click subscribe, click the little bell to be notified anytime I release a new video. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me. I read everything, and I'll try to get back to you and answer you, and I love to talk with you guys, so it's never a problem. Okay, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions. I'm going to get out of here. Lots of fun stuff to do, lots of fun stuff coming up, so keep an eye on the channel. You're not going to want to miss some of the stuff that I have coming for you. Okay, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions. Until next time, have a super, amazing, fantastic, red baron kind of flying, kind of happy day, and be good.